So now that we have gravity working, we're ready to go ahead and make our player jump. And just going back to the last video where I spawned the player up here so we could watch gravity get applied, I have changed my start Y back to 7 so that the player is resting on the ground at the beginning of the game. And so now I'm going to get out of the way and let's get into the code. So when we're going to jump, I'm going to add another attribute to my player, which is going to be self.jump power. And I'm just going to set it to 10 for no particular reason. This is one of those numbers that, just tinker with it until the physics, feel right. So this is completely a guess right now. And so what the jump is going to do is change the y velocity of the player. So I'm just going to say self.vy. Remember, the coordinate plane is inverted, so if we want the player to go up, we're going to set it to negative self.jump power. Now here's another situation where I'm negating a variable, and I think sometimes that's a little bit difficult to see there, and it might look like it's not even intentional. So I prefer, when I'm multiplying something by, when I'm negating something, to multiply it by -1. Now it's more obvious what I'm doing, and it clearly looks like intentional and not like I accidentally just typed a stray minus sign. All right, so there's our jump, and we don't need to worry about changing the velocity. We already did that when we were dealing with the gravity, so that line is good. And so all we really need to do is go to the controls, and we've got to decide where to put it. So the pressed keys are, right, these are actions I want to happen to occur the entire time a particular key is pressed. Jumping isn't like that. Jumping is, the instant I press a key, I want the jump to happen, but I don't want the jump to occur again until I release and then repress that same key. So instead of doing my jump controls in here, I'm going to go to the key down event area and handle my jumping here. So I'm going to say if event.key equals pygame.k underscore, and you can use whatever key you want. I'm going to use a space. Okay. If some of you, if you're using the WASD and you wanted to use W to jump, then you can put a W there, or whatever other key you'd like to use. And so now we just have to say hero.jump and see if it works. There's my player. So he's moving around, and I can jump up here. Now I have whoops, that was a little glitch. Okay, I haven't resolved those collisions yet. I have a little bit of a problem right now, and that is my player cannot jump up to the top of that platform. And we also have this weird glitch to deal with. So now the next thing to do is, right, we're going to go fiddle with the jump power until you can actually get up there. All right, this is a place where we'll just go into our hero, and I'll change the jump power to 20 because it looks like it needs to go about twice as high. Oh, that's too high. And try 15. Okay, so that seems to be good enough. And by the way, I was messing with the jump power, but actually you have two variables that work in conjunction. So, rather than increase the jump power, we could also either increase or decrease the gravity to change the physics of the game. And basically, you just have to think about how your platforms are laid out and what makes sense, and just trial and error. All right, so if you want to make the player jump higher, you can lower this, or you can raise the jump power. All right, so now we have to resolve collisions, and that's the same thing. Just noticed something that should have been an LF earlier. So that's the same thing as as we did with the collisions in the X direction. And right now, right, when we did gravity, we were just saying if the player is moving downward, we set the bottom of the player to the top of the block that it hits. But we can just copy and paste that. And if the player is moving up, okay, the velocity will be negative if it's moving up. Then we just need to set the top of the player to bottom of the block that he hits. And again, we're still, right, once the player bonks his head, we're still going to set the velocity back to 0. So let me, we can there, and we jump under stuff, right, and we hit our head, and right, looks pretty good. So there's one other weird thing happening here, and I haven't shown this yet, but if I jump, and I jump again, and I jump again, right, there's nothing in my code that checks to see if I'm on a platform before it allows me to jump. So what I want to do now is write some code that makes sure I'm actually standing on something before it allows the jump to take place. And actually, before I do that, one of the things you might notice is, like basically invented Flappy Bird right here, right? So, but let's go ahead and fix the platform issue. All right, so I'm going to go to my jump code. And what we need to do in here is just check to make sure that you're actually standing on something. So now we don't, so what I'm going to do is just prior to a jump, I'm just going to say self.rect.y, and I'm going to say plus equals, I don't know, 2. Doesn't really matter what number you pick here. I'm just going to nudge the player down a couple pixels. And then I am going to get the hits. And this is going to be a list of all of the platforms that I am colliding with. And then I'm just going to nudge the player back up. So we're not actually going to see the motion, the movement take place on the screen. So we're just kind of going, if we nudge the player down 2 pixels, what would we be hitting? And then we'll move the player's position back before anything ever gets drawn. And so now what I get to do is I get to say if the length of the hits is greater than 0, we'll jump, and then otherwise nothing will occur. So now, right, we can't jump unless we happen to actually be standing on something. So let's see if it works. Okay, I can jump there, and I'm pushing it while he's in the air, and nothing happens, and it seems to work on all my other platforms. And okay, so we've got something. Just one more thing I thought would be interesting to show you about, the double jumps and ways you could alter both the jump power and things like gravity and terminal velocity. But go back to like old school Mario, and we probably all remember the underwater levels. And what's happening in this underwater level, it's really the exact same controls, but the gravity is low and the terminal velocity is low, so the player falls slow. And the jump power is a little bit low because you don't go too high on one single jump push. And double jumps are just allowed in this situation, right? So if you just mess with gravity and terminal velocity and jump power and allow double jumps, you basically know everything you need to make a water level if you wanted to incorporate that into your game. All right, so hope you think that was interesting, and if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.